Good afternoon, class. I'll be discussing the dangers of marijuana. My main claim is that marijuana is one of the most dangerous drugs that can cause multiple problems or fatal death to a human's health. So, the way I determine marijuana, it can be determined as dry leaves, which comes from a natural plant from the ground. And it contains the main component that people are really addicted to, which is called THC. You can look that up to find prior knowledge. And the people that tend to smoke marijuana, they tend to call it like as a joint, pot, weed, blunt, Bloody Mary, stuff like that. And here's my supporting claim. For instance, access. People that, the reason why I chose my topic, dangers of marijuana, is because that people that, I feel people tend to abuse marijuana, so I'm like going against it. So for instance, access to medical marijuana has resulted in abuse as a medical relief for a whole lot of people, where people tend to fake their conditions, like they'll go to the doctor feeling sick or fatigue or nausea and stuff, and they would pretend like they're really that sick, and so the doctor would end up believing them, and they will prescribe them a medical marijuana card. So from there, they are prescribed cannabis and another prescription of marijuana. They're prescribed a certain amount of dosage, which it comes like in a little thing, and they can get it refilled. So that's the point of like getting a medical marijuana card. And another thing, like I said, the symptoms people fake, or like they act like they're vomiting, nausea, or sick or something. Or like they have a lot of anxiety and it helps them like calm down, or maybe they're even bipolar and they don't know how to control it to not take their anger out on people. So for them it shows that it helps them, but studies shows that in reality that it's just basically a drug and proven as a drug, and it's not proven as like medicine. And going on to point B, people take advantage of the healthcare system, like I said, by finding out regarding their condition. Moving on to point C, people with real illnesses that are prescribed marijuana, such as like studies have shown that it helps with like leukemia, cancer, and other symptoms that people are really seriously dealing with, and at some point in their lives they become really addicted, and it's like really hard for them to get off of. And like I said, that main component within that marijuana is called THC. So yeah, and the symptoms they end up having is that they just don't act normal like some people do in society. They cover up a lot, and they have a lot of insecurities they're dealing with, and they end up breaking ties with people and stuff, and they change up on you too. Their emotions can go up and down. You don't know what's really going on with them, so they're like freaking out. Okay, so moving on to how marijuana can affect a human's health. Basically, marijuana tends to affect the brain. It basically affects the cerebellum of the brain and other parts of the brain too. And it tends to basically like destroy brain cells completely. So you don't get those brain cells back, because at some point we already reached like adulthood, and like I said, you don't get them back. And people, they end up having a short-term memory. Like they'll know something, but then are memorized really quick, but then within a period of time, they'll forget what they just learned or heard, and they have no clue what's going on. And marijuana causes people to have like huge amounts of anxiety, like they can't be still, they get really nervous all the time, they fidget a lot, or they're shaking and they don't know how to control it. It's just the same like cigarettes. And not only that, okay, now moving on to how marijuana can affect performance on a daily basis. So, people that tend to smoke pot every single day, it becomes abnormal, like a second nature to them, where it's completely nothing. And like I said, when they get really addictive, they can smoke it for like 15 or 20 minutes every time, and to the point where they're like all feeling all good. I guess with marijuana, from reading like an article from the bibliography I listed, it shows that people that do that, people that does that, never mind, I forgot what I said. Okay, so it can also cause to have unhealthy relationships. Like I said, people tend to break away, and it's like they want to be in a relationship and then they don't, so it's not really stable, and they don't know what they really want. And basically, they're using this as a symptom. Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, Joy, there's a controversy on this because a lot of people are even advocating legalization, or they use it on a regular basis, so they believe that it's safe. And so I don't think that there's much question that there's some dispute on the issue. Your proposition has multiple parts built into it, and it's way too complicated for the claim of fact issue that we're dealing with here. You need to simplify the general proposition at the start of the speech. The secondary issues that you are going to be talking about also need to be a little bit more distinct. Some of them are labeled, most of them are not stated as declarative sentences, and it's not quite clear how they build together. It sounds to me like there's an argument that you're building that says that it's the use of medical marijuana is really having a damaging effect. And to start with, you're going to say that medical marijuana is really just an opportunity for people to smoke marijuana regardless of whether or not they are sick. And then you have a point that talks about what some of the potential dangers of smoking marijuana are. And then there's some different dangers that you list. And it's not really building as an argument. It feels like you're taking random scattershot claims, sometimes claims, and sometimes just descriptions. So you need to be a lot more structured in building the argument. The biggest issue that I have is that there is not any evidence in your presentation at all. You make a claim that says that people claim to be sick, but they aren't really sick. And I'm going, well, what makes you think that? What proof do you have? Have you got it? Even a personal example. My friend Bob is a lazy bum. He just wants to smoke pot all the time. And he went to his doctor and said he had a headache. And the doctor said, okay, here's a prescription for marijuana. At least I'd have a personal example there. I don't even get that. I've got a vague description that maybe somebody does that. I'm sure that there's evidence out there that talks about, experts who've looked at this, researchers who've investigated it, or even self-confessed potheads who just go out and say, I just lied and, I said I get migraines or menstrual cramps and they gave me a thing and now I can get all the pot that I want. Even that would be an example that we could use to support that claim. I've just got your assertion on this. You say it's strongly addictive. Again, I have no evidence that suggests that it is strongly addictive. That's your assertion entirely. The issue of whether or not marijuana is addictive is definitely a controversy, so it's something that's appropriate for you to argue about, but you have to provide some proof that it is addictive. There are plenty of people who smoke marijuana that seem to be fine without it. Some smoke it casually, some smoke it all the time. What's the difference between these people? Is it the dosage that they get? Is it something in their own ability, in their own makeup that makes it more addictive for them? Or do they just, is it physically addictive? Is it mentally addictive? I don't know. You mentioned that people change when they're under the effect of marijuana. I don't think there's much dispute that people change in their attitudes. I mean, that's people get high to get high, that sort of thing. But you're talking about how they, distance themselves from others, their relationships aren't sustained. I didn't hear any information on that. I don't know what that is based on. You mentioned it harms brain cells. I didn't hear any data on that. You mentioned it creates anxiety. I didn't hear any data on that. The closest that you came to citing any evidence, two things. Studies show that is not a source citation. All right, that's a rumor. And an article that I saw that's in my bibliography, which of course is not anything that we're getting access to, so that makes it difficult for us to tell what kind of information you're utilizing there. You've got an issue that has good dispute on it, and there is good information on it, and maybe you've done the research and it's someplace in your bibliography, but where it didn't end up in is in the speech, and so I think that's the big problem that you have with the presentation. All right, thank you.